Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alternative Jargon episode number 40. 40 is a very biblical number. I believe that the flood of Noah's Ark, didn't it rain for 40 days, 40 nights? Didn't Jesus do something for 40 days? Didn't he fast, or he lived alone for 40 days? I can't exactly remember, but I know it's a very biblical number, so we have to make this a decent episode, as good as we can. My preschool Bible teacher would be upset about my current lack of knowledge, but nonetheless, we have to move forward. There is a very biblical heat wave going on right now in the United States, apparently in India too. Apparently there's been 100 hospitalizations in India, or something like that I read. So that means one hospitalization for about every trillion people over there. I didn't know that they even knew how to count to 100 in that country, because everything just starts at 25 million over there. There's so many people. That always does blow my mind about that area of the world. India, China, just crazy, especially India, because India is not that big. I mean, China's huge. I think if you take out one or two states from the US, China beats us in landmass, but India is the size of Texas. And I don't actually know if that's true, but that's how big it is in my head. And they got 1.3 billion people in Texas. That's just crazy. Anyway, though, this heat wave is really going insane right now. And I'm just going to say it. Is it a coincidence that Charli XCX's new album dropped and then the planet just went absolutely apeshit with the weather? Is that really a coincidence? I don't know if it is or not. The planet is now seething. It is ragingly hot. And I gotta say, so is this album. I don't think I've heard music like this since 2012. It really does feel like a club, real dance club, party, techno music is back with this album, and I could not be happier. That music will never die. It'll never get old. And I really don't think we've been there in a while. I feel like that music was perfect for getting wasted and dancing and embarrassing yourself in public. But back then, cell phones were not as prevalent, so you didn't have to worry about that. Nowadays, cell phones are prevalent, but if you get enough beers in me, I will go crazy to Charli XCX, and I will not care what I look like. This album, when I first listened to it, I listened to it for the first time last weekend. It's about 2 weeks old at this point, but I was a week late to it. And I'm not even kidding when I say that some of these songs I listened to, and my jaw absolutely dropped, and it put a huge smile on my face. Because the last time I heard music that equates to the feeling that it gave me was literally over a decade ago. This album sounded like music that I would hear in a smoke shop in Ocean City, Maryland, filled with offensive t-shirts in the year 2011 in the best way possible. I just feel like I'm in a seedy Ocean City, Maryland shop where, the guy running the register has gauges in his ears that are 3 inches in diameter. Every 5 minutes he has to go outside and vape, and hopefully no one steals anything while he's gone. He's got tattoo sleeves, and he could be on Jersey Shore, but he lives too far south. There's just, I don't know, we need to make that its own genre. Maybe I'll make a Spotify playlist filled with Ocean City, Maryland CD t-shirt shop music / vape shop music. But seriously, a few of the songs on this album I listened to, and my jaw just hit the floor. And I haven't listened to music for the first time and felt that in a very long time. There's one in particular on this album. Let me see if I can find it. Brat song list. It's not the most popular one. 365 is the most popular one. Sympathy is a Knife. That one, I haven't heard a song that's banged that hard in a long time. And I think one of the big problems with music today and music over the last 10 years that hasn't been the same is it's just not deep enough audioly. I don't know what I'm talking about, but these songs have so many layers to them, I feel like, and every time you listen to them you sort of hear a new sound. And I know that this isn't the only music out there right now that's like that, but I do feel like techno music, whatever you want to call it, EDM, has really been watered down in that regard. A lot of what's put out today in the EDM genre is house music, and don't get me wrong, I love house music. Fisher, Fred Again, guys like that are great. But a lot of their songs, especially like Fisher, it's, one really, really good sounding drop surrounded by 3 minutes of boots and cats. And that music, don't get me wrong, has its place. But there's not enough music out there right now that just goes full speed ahead, 100% for the whole runtime of the song. That music is really great for when you just want to feel that way. I feel like I love house, but house is a little too reserved sometimes. House is like, yeah, I'm gonna fist bump and do something with do the frat flick, but sometimes you just want to like mosh pit to something other than death metal, and you can really do that to this music. When I get hype, and this music you can definitely get hype to. Half the songs are about going to the bathroom to do bumps. If that doesn't get you in the mood to be crazy, then what will? Of course, a certain artist, when this album came out, a certain artist, I'm not gonna say who, but a certain artist had to release her album. I don't even know what it was. It was like freaking voice memos or something. Had to release those in the UK to keep herself at number 1 on the charts. Because God forbid this unnamed person be overtaken by anybody else in any other genre for any amount of time. And it kept Charli XCX at number 2 on the UK charts. Not even the US charts, the UK charts. I think Charli is British, English, whatever you want to call it. I think she is. So yeah, she can't even have success in her homeland. She can't even get that number 1 in her homeland. And I'll just say this. I don't know music like that way. I don't know the ins and outs and all the technicalities of it that go into it. But I guarantee that Charli probably spent 10 times the amount of time working on this album than this other unnamed artist did on the toilet paper department or whatever it's called. I think there's like 37 different versions of that album out there now. Of course it's going to be the best-selling album in the world and number 1 when there are 30-something versions. But who's really surprised by all this? Is anybody really surprised by all this? I'm not going to say this person's name because I'm convinced that her super fans have artificial intelligence algorithms out on every broadband of the internet, that when her name is uttered and it's not in a complete worship setting, they come after you and defile you with whatever they can do. I think that's probably how they operate. I'm going to keep the name to myself, and I don't need those people coming after me, so I'm going to keep it to myself. And honestly, I could make an hour-long episode about this person and be passionately ranting about them from the beginning to the end with no, 100% the whole time, just like Miss XCX's music. But I'm not going to do that. She gets enough press as is. I'm not going to give her any more. But yeah, I got recommended to a subreddit by the algorithm. Just popped up on my homepage on Reddit. Yes, I use Reddit, and no, I'm not ashamed. But it's called Travis and Taylor, and they are the fastest growing subreddit on the entire website right now, where they kind of expose all of the shady business and just general practices she engages in 24/7, because she might be the most obsessive person on the planet. Like dropping a new album every time someone else does, or dropping a new version so that they can't get the number one spot. I didn't know that the music industry was, like sports where you have to go for championships. I remember ranting a few years ago about how I get kind of annoyed about like rap music sometimes, because I feel like a lot of the rappers aren't making their music necessarily to create good music or good art, but instead just sell and then brag about selling and then say, you didn't sell as much as me, I sold more, I streamed more. And that, I feel like that sort of fits rap a little bit better, because that's sort of the thing. That's sort of part of, I guess, hip-hop culture. But, like, the music industry in general is not a competition. You're artists creating art. This is not a Super Bowl. I know that your hubby may be instilling that in you, but it is not a competition to be won or lost. Music is an art form that is supposed to be enjoyed. But that's just me. And I'm not a billionaire. So what do I know? But anyway, yeah, fastest growing subreddit where they kind of expose this person. And I'm not going to lie, I've been eating it up. But yeah, I do use Reddit. And you want to know what I look at on Reddit? My two favorite subreddits right now are r/skyscrapers and r/city porn and r/geography. I'm a really big geo guy. If you every day go to geogridgame.com, it's the most fun game on the internet. I love it. It's a shame there's only one of those put out a day. But anyway, this heat wave is really something, huh? I don't want to spend any more time talking about Reddit or Taylor Swift than I already did. So I'm just going to ask about the weather and whistle like I didn't say any of that. Yeah, I honestly have a theory. I think that the Democrats are behind the heat wave, and I think it's so that Chuck Schumer's burger can cook no matter what he does to it. Chuck Schumer posted a picture of himself cooking burgers outside, and it's a picture of him holding a spatula, and there's a bunch of burgers on the grill, and they're all like raw. One of them has a slice of cheese on it that is completely unmelted. In fact, I've never seen a piece of cheese so sturdy. The thing's corners literally poke perpendicularly out the edge of the burger, and if you're watching on YouTube, I just made a very bad mistake. I just tried to illustrate how the cheese looked on the burger perpendicularly, and I stuck my arm out like that. So they got me. I'm a neo-Nazi now. Red-handed. But yeah, I've never seen a piece of cheese hold up so well. The thing did not even curve at the edges. It looked like it was fresh, straight out of the fridge, just stuck on there. Take the pick, go inside. Julio, get the stretch. I don't know if, it's a photo op. And no, I'm not making a political point here. It's just funny. But this does seem to be a motif among politicians on both sides of the aisle, trying to appear as a normal person and utterly failing every time they do try this. I remember Ron DeSanctimonious, a while back, I think like a year ago. There were videos of him hanging out with people and he's drinking a beer and he's just trying to look like one of the guys drinking a beer. And it looks like he's never held an object in his hand before. And he looks like a robot that has code running through him, has JavaScript and Python algorithms running through him to tell him when to take a sip, when to smile, when to laugh, what to laugh at. Just hard to watch. Really, really hard to watch. Ron, chug the beer and maybe you'll loosen up a bit, buddy. Yeah, he is really fallen far. I remember during COVID, Ron DeSantis was like the Republican Party's hero. Besides Trump, Florida was basically kept open during COVID. And no matter what your thoughts on that, it doesn't matter. Republicans everywhere loved that. They really loved that. And he was sort of like leading the front with that charge. But this guy, I don't know what it's going to take for him to revive his career. I mean, he's still governor, but he's been flopping recently. And maybe he will turn to drinking and maybe look natural next time he takes a sip. I hope for that sake that he does become an alcoholic, because at least then we'll be able to stand to watch him, interact with another human. But yeah, back to the heat wave though. My book melted in my car today at work. Every day at work, I take whatever book it is I'm reading into work so that I can read it in my car on my 15-minute breaks. It is the only saving grace of sitting in my sauna car in this heat wave, is that I get to read my book. 15 minutes, I can knock out 10 to 15 pages in that time. Every little bit helps chip away to continue your reading adventure. But today I got in my car and I started it and I blasted the AC, which as soon as it gets cold, I have to go back into work. But, keeps the air moving at least. And I set a timer on my phone so I don't get lost in my novel. I'm reading Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin right now. Just started it last night. I read the whole Game of Thrones series last year and really enjoyed it. But I did need some time off from the fantasy genre. I wanted to dig into some other stuff. But now I'm back and I'm diving back into that world. Or at least I thought I was. I tried to. Apparently I dove too hard, though, and ripped the pages out. I opened my book, and the second I did, I was on about page 50 after last night. The second I did, pages 1 through 50 all just fell completely out of the book. No tear, nothing. It just completely fell out. And it had to be because of the heat, because I read it just last night, and it was a book, and now it turned into a fire starter. Now I did bring it home, and I super glued it, and I'm going to try to carefully read it, but I guess I won't be able to do it in my car at work anymore. Granted, it is the mass market paperback version, but still, it was very disappointing. I paid $10 whole for that book. And I used, 30 cents worth of super glue to fix it. And I didn't think I would have to pour any more finances into a novel than just buying it once. But I guess they just don't make them like they used to. What am I going to have to go, get insurance for it? Yeah, I guess I'll have to report the VIN number to the dealer. So they know that there was a factory defect or something. But, it's a 750-page book. This is one that I'm going to be working on for a couple weeks at least. It's very thick. And, if I have to put this thing together, reassemble it every time I want to read a page, I'm going to flip out. I'm going to absolutely go crazy. If I have to reassemble my book every single time I want to read it, I'm just going to Barnes & Noble. I am going to commit a terrorist attack on Barnes & Noble. Only in Biden's America does a book melt. It's made of paper and glue. We've been making books for hundreds of years, and now they decide to just fall apart. That's not a coincidence. Thanks, Biden. Needless to say, this travesty today ruined my 15-minute break at work, and I immediately went back into work. I spent about 5 minutes in my car. 30 of those seconds I spent opening my book, and 4.5 minutes of the rest of that 5 was spent staring in awe at the fact that a book just melted in my hands. Really disappointing. And, I had something taken from me today. My 15-minute break is one of the only peaceful 15 minutes of my entire day, and I didn't even get to enjoy it. Forget about the people being hospitalized from heat stroke. Forget about the British people whose houses are turning into wax. Did you hear about my 15-minute break today? I bet you didn't, because the radical left and the radical right media will not report on this. So, you're not going to see that one on the news. That's for sure. That's for sure. Willie Mays has died. One of baseball's legends, made one of the most legendary catches of all time. An all-time great player. And hours after he passed away, Nick Castellanos hit a walk-off double to beat the Padres in the bottom of the 9th inning. And it doesn't get much better than that. The story continues to be written in his book. It's too bad the Phillies were off today, because I'm sure that if they played today, he would have had 3 home runs after what happened to my book. But once again, you wouldn't hear about that in the media. But yeah, I think I have a strategy. I've decided that if the Phillies make the World Series this year, I'm going to wait to Barnes & Noble until they're in there. So that I ensure that they win. If I do that to every one of these wholesale book chains in the country, there's many of them, that's a major news story. They'll definitely report on that. And then Nick Castellanos will go crazy. Justin Timberlake was arrested for DUI in the Hamptons. The guy who pulled him over didn't even recognize him. I would have thought that if you were a cop in the Hamptons, that they would give you a celebrity handbook of all the people there, so that you would know who not to actually arrest and punish. I think for every one celebrity crime that's reported in the news and they actually get a mugshot, there are probably 80 that go unreported. If this guy was, an early 2000s boy band ramen noodle head fan, then he definitely would have just let him slide. But unfortunately, he was not, and it looks like Gen Z's cracking down on these celebrities, which is unfortunate. Rip to my guy, JT. I'm sure he'll post bond, bail, and be out of there in no time. Probably won't actually face any consequences. Yeah, but I guess if they really did punish him, he must have done something actually stupid. Maybe tell him next time to stick to the back streets where his motor skills will be more in sync. It was a bit of a short episode this week, but I still got one out there nonetheless. All of my episodes are kind of bite-sized. This one is, snack size, fun size. You can't always eat the whole meal. Sometimes you need a little snack to hold you over. So I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.